Hey guys, Kevin here. I'm running a minute late, looks like, but I was trying to get a program installed on my computer that would actually um, show you which keys I'm pressing, but I'll have to tell you that. So, and I'll also come up with a document that you can that I'll send you. You can download. So here's the story. I've got a friend who is he is a avid digital performer user, and he uses it in the studio all the time. So he knows shortcuts and those shortcut bindings, and how helpful they can be whenever you're doing anything for anybody. It's really important that you know how to get around in whatever DAW you're using. So he's using Pro Tools in a couple of weeks, and he called me and said, can you give me a crash course on Pro Tools? So that's what this is. So I'll make a downloadable link for you guys to use to show you these shortcuts that I use. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so you can see my screen here, and it looks like there is a tracking session up there. So one of the things I want to show you is this. It's so simple that it's just spacebar for start and stop, right? That's the first one you're going to want to know. It's how to start and stop the software in playing. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to jot these down so that I remember how to put these into a PDF for you. So spacebar, got that one. Okay. So as you're rolling here, over here, if there is a track that is ready to record, and it looks like this Vox T is ready to record. So when I put it in record, which there's a shortcut for that too. If you select that track and you hit Shift R, that will toggle the track in and out of record. I usually don't do that because I usually just hit the record button on that. If you're wanting, here's another trick. If you're wanting to do multiple tracks, just select all of the tracks there, hold Shift. Let's see, you know what? All of these tracks don't have inputs on them. So let me show you that shortcut first, and then we'll loop back around to this one, okay? So this is the track that has, and if you notice, these are grayed out up here. You can actually, looks like there's not an interface connected, but let's just say you wanted to do these in sequential order down to here. So let's grab all of the tracks, and let's just pretend that, say, this is your drum kit, and your drum kits are like input 1 through, I don't know, 12 or something, whatever this is. So what you can do is you select all of the tracks, and then you hold Shift, Option, and Command. And again, I may put these in a little later, but Shift, Option, Command, and then you go to the first one and you hit the first track that you want it to be. And then what happens is it routes each one of them to the next sequential input like this. So if you notice, it's like bus 7, bus 8, bus 9, bus 10. And this is N3 and 4. I don't know why it didn't go, but that's supposed to. So I guess every one that's available, it does. Now, if, for instance, you had, okay, so that's the next one. Let's see, Shift, Option, Command, Option, Command. Okay, I hope I can read that later. Okay, so let's just say that you wanted to not do each one in a sequential order. Let me take this one through this one, and let's here's another cool one, another cool option too. Hide and make inactive. Let's just say you're going through the session and you have opened up your template, and you know that you're only doing let's just say you've got 3 percussion tracks set up, right? But you only want to do 1. This is how you would make a track inactive. You just right click on the track, and then you hide and make inactive. That's what I'm going to do here. So I'm only going to be working with these 4 tracks just to make it easy. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to blow through these pretty quick, but hopefully you'll grasp some of these. I'll go back through and I'll create a download for you guys so you can print this off and have a cheat sheet, okay? Okay, so we've already established that if you do these, you hold Shift Command Option, Shift Option Command, yeah, and then you go to the first track. It will do this. Now, let's just say you wanted all these to be the same track. Let's just say you duplicated or you created 4 stereo tracks because you were going to do 4 passes of percussion with the overhead mics. So you've got the overhead mics and you wanted to assign all 4 of those tracks to the same input. Here's how you do that. You hold Shift and Option, leave off the command, and what it does is it routes everything to the same input. See, bus 7, they're all bus 7 now. All right, so now that we've got, and you can also do that with the inputs. You can also do that with buses. So let me show you that real quick. Let's just say for a second you're creating a headphone mix. Okay, headphone mix. You've got all of these tracks selected, and you hold Shift Option, and then you select a bus. And let's just call that the headphones, right? I've got it set. I don't have it set, but it's set for headphones. All of those tracks are set for headphones, okay? Now, if you notice, you can right-click. Well, you won't notice this, but here's a trick too. If you put all your headphones in the same row, you can right-click to the left button here, and you can hit Send A, and then that send becomes like a little mixer with pan, and a mute and a pre-fader and the volume. Okay, so that's pretty handy. Here's another trick. Oh gosh, these shortcuts are just like I realize how much muscle memory I have right here when I'm. So if you want to, first of all, these faders will default to infinity, which is no output, unless you select a preference. And I'll show you that preference if I can remember it in just a second. By the way, if you've got questions, jump in the chat box and leave me a comment and ask. If I start going through this stuff, I'll circle back around and stuff, okay? If you want this fader to go to 0, hold Option and click it, and it will go to 0, okay? Making sure I didn't. Okay, go to Option 0. And just like I said, this is a mute and this is pre-fader. You see the little blue that appeared by it? That means that no matter where this fader is, say like this fader is at 0 right now, you would still get click because this fader is up. If pre-fader was off and that blue indicator went off, then no matter how far you push this up or brought it down, it wouldn't get any output because the click is at 0. And this fader here is after this fader. So if this fader is at 0, it kind of turns off the hose, it turns off the nozzle, right? Okay. So the Shift Option thing will take you a long way. When you select a lot of tracks and you want to put them in record, Shift Option. And then if you want to take one out of record, you just don't do anything. So remember that Shift Option for recorded. That Shift Option thing. Yes, this is live, Abner. The Shift Option thing is going to take you a long way because you can cover. If you got a question about whether something will do something on a mass scale, like every track you've got, then Shift Option's your guy. Like, see, I just did Shift Option and Option clicked one of the faders and they all went to 0. So in a tracking session, these are pretty handy plugins to have, okay? Let's see. Okay, let's go for a second. Okay, so you've got it in record. I'm going to go back to this window here, and I'm not going to record over anything. If you're playing and you want to go and record, I use a pad or a keyboard with a keypad on the side of it like this. Let's see if I can show this to you here. This one here. This is my keypad over here, and a lot of the shortcuts can be here. So if you've got an option to use one of these, go ahead and use one. So some of these, when I say the number 3, won't work with the number 3 on the the QWERTY part of the keyboard. It only works with the keypad part, okay? So just keep that in mind. With that in mind, if you hit play, which is the space bar, and then you hit the number 3, that's what I usually do to record in and out. Another way to do it would be to hit hit the play, space bar to hit play, and then hold command and hit space. But you have to, I don't have this set up. This is what it'll cause if you do the shift command. You have to have that option turned off in your Finder. And I'm not going to go into that right now because I'm too busy covering keyboard shortcuts. So the number 3 goes into record. And if this is set up, and chances are, if you're working in the studio that does Pro Tools all the time, they have that command turned off too, because a lot of people do command spacebar to go into record. All right. And then if you hit spacebar, it goes out of record. That's why I do 3, the number 3, because the number 3 gets you into record and it also gets you out of record. Okay. So a couple of other things. Okay. So the command plus sign is what flips from the mixer window back to the edit window. All right. Let's see. The the command left bracket is the one that zooms out on the timeline, and the right bracket is the one that zooms in on the timeline. So let's see if I can. I wish I had the key, if the key command was working, but I promise you, I'll put all these in a document and send them to you a little later on today, okay? So option, open bracket, close bracket, it will zoom in. On the same note, option command bracket will make the waveforms fatter. It won't increase the volume, but it will make the waveform fatter. So this is, say you've got, you're looking for a breath or something, you can actually hold that and zoom in, okay? Let's see. Okay, let's just say that you've got you've got your windows up like this, and you want to get everything in this compact little window. You can hold the Control Option command, which is what I call the fat finger. I think I learned that from my friend Nathan. If you hold the fat finger and hold all those down and then hit the down arrow, it will fill the screen with whatever tracks you've got. And if you've got enough tracks that you don't have to minimize everything, then you can just fill the screen and you have all the tracks there. If not, it's the most compact way there is, okay? Let's show you another couple of things. Now, I leave markers. Like when I'm going through a section, this is really important for when you're cutting tracks. When you're cutting tracks and your playhead is rolling like this, you can hit the enter button, and it popped up on the other screen. Let me grab it. The enter button, and this will pop up in the right place next time. Then you can name it for us. Okay. So, and we'll show you one other little thing here. Sometimes in the preferences window, let me show you this. Pull this over here so you can see it. Sometimes in the preference window, it will ask you if you want to name it. Auto name. Let me see where that is. Auto name separated clips. If that's turned off, what it will do is it will just let me show you what it does. If you're rolling along here and you hit enter, I think that's the one. Sometimes it will just name it marker 1, marker 2, and it won't give you an option. You have to go back and rename it. With that auto name off, oh yeah, I didn't hit apply. Okay, so auto name separated clips. If I turn that off and then hit OK and close the window, then when I hit play and hit and this, well, it didn't do it again. Sorry about that. Okay, we'll move on. One of the things I want to show you is that when you double click this and you see the memory location, you'll notice that there's a number 1 there, right? That number 1 is the thing just so that you can increase your muscle memory. That number one is the number that I always put for the very beginning of the song. So if you'll be careful and just store your first marker as the intro, or be able to, like right now, this right here, let's just say we called it intro. Okay, and we move this back to the very beginning of the song to where the click starts. Then here's the next shortcut. You can hit dot one dot and it will snap to that first marker. So whenever you want to go back to the front of the song, let's just say if you save that marker and you put it at the front of the song, then you hit dot one dot on your keypad. It will snap there. So let's just say this is the chorus here. This is the chorus here, and then that, if you notice, that is a, gosh, why it needs to keep snapping up on this screen. If you'll notice, that's 2. You can use these numbers and snap around, and if you're real strategic about it, you can always have like, let's just say you wanted to always have your chorus at marker 10. You can actually just do this and name it 10, save it, and then I do dot 10 dot, and it snaps to that position. Okay, so keep that in mind. I never do that on the choruses unless I keep going back to the same spot over and over, like the intro. I'll save that as 1, and that way I'll know to go to the beginning of a session and leave the part off where everybody's like getting ready for everything. And then when the actual click starts, I'll put that marker there as marker 1. That way when they say, hey, take me from the top again, all you have to do is dot one dot space bar and you're rolling. Okay, those little things will help save you some time. Let's see. So the marker, got that. Dot one dot, got that. Command bracket, we did that. That's how you zoom in and out on a timeline. Shift command bracket. I think I meant to do option command bracket. That blows it up. Command K. Okay, let's just say, for example, you're going to be punching in here, and you wanted to punch here on this bar. If you do Shift K, that will put pre-roll in on it, and you can see the pre-roll and post-roll time there. Now, this pre-roll and post-roll is set up for bars and beats. If you've got your session on the bars and beats, then it makes sense to do this, because then you can just do, Shift K is 1 bar, right? That's one beat. Let's just say you wanted 1 bar instead. You just hit 1, and then that way when you do Shift K and your pre-roll, you roll back from 1 bar. I don't do that unless I'm actually playing something myself. If I'm playing something myself, then I need to like hit record, and it'll roll back and it will go into record at that bar, right? That's oh, and Command Z is a good handy shortcut too. Fernando, let me come back to that question, okay? What I usually do is I have it set up to where the number 1 and number 2, and I think this is set up because I don't remember setting this up anyway. Now this will work when you're on bars and beats, okay? But if I hit the number 1 on the keypad, it goes forward 1 bar. So if somebody says, hey, I want to get in on bar 85, then what I'll do is I'll put my playhead or my marker on 85, and then I'll back up 2 bars, and then I will say, hey, we're 2 bars from 85, and I'll hit play. Let me turn Shift K off. Let me turn that pre-roll off, because that's only handy if you're doing MIDI and you're playing things yourself. This is what I'll do. They'll say, hey, put me in 85, and then I'll put it on 85 so I know exactly where we're going, and then I'll back up 2 bars, and then I'll hit the space bar from there. That way, it makes you look good as a mixer, because you always know where you are. You always know how much pre-roll there is. And 2 bars, unless they're really quick bars, 2 bars is enough time to get anybody kind of in the zone. Like you hit play there. Actually, that looked like it went 4 bars, right? So I don't know exactly what the preference is, but that will be in the download, okay? So the left the number 1, and then number two. Number two goes that way. So if he says, hey, put me in on bar 3 of the chorus. So if you have the chorus here, just pretend this is the chorus, and you want to go in bar 3, you can run it one bar up and say, hey, this is bar, this is two bars before your punch, and that way you know. So I'll figure out how you change the. Did I mention this is live? I'll mention, or I'll put in the download what the preference is for how many bars you go. I usually go 1 because I don't like to do math in my head when I'm trying to work, obviously. So anyway, those are some really cool shortcuts to know when you're doing a Pro Tools session. Now, when you're putting the session away, here's another little bonus thing, I guess. And I have keystrokes set up for this, but I'll show you. If you go into the regions bin and you hit show or select all unused or unused, it's going to select a certain amount of files that were recordings that you never used and you will never go back to because they're not even in the edit window. They're only in the regions bin. And the chances of you going back and grabbing Vox 102 and Vox 104 are pretty rare. But here's what I'll do. I don't delete them just yet because, so I'll select them first. So I'll go select unused, and then I'll go back to that menu and I'll hit clear, and then it'll give me an options to remove it or delete it. And I usually just remove it because if you delete it, it deletes it off the hard drive. And if and this only becomes a problem if you're using, say, a shared file, like say you got a shared click track audio clip that you use. If you're not using it in this session and you delete it, it's gone from every session that was ever in. Okay, so you don't want to do that. That seems a little too final. I usually like keeping this clear just because even if you don't remove it from the session, when you go to back this up, it doesn't back up those files. If they're not in this region bin, it doesn't copy them. So I usually hit remove, and it removes them from this section here, which keeps everything cleaner. And then I'll hit save, and then I'll close it. So one other thing, let me show you, is how you can save a shortcut. Let's just say you've got, or save a template. You can actually right-click on these, and you can save the track, but you don't want to do the track. Let's just say you've got a master template where you've got all your drums, all your vocals, all your effects, all your mixing stuff, but you only really want the drums, the input to the drums. And so you pull your whole session in, and then you want to trim it down to whatever you just use, okay? So you go to the File menu, and you can Save as Template. So whatever this is, whatever you've got saved to go, let's just say you're working on this session, and you want to save exactly what you've got as a template. You've got the click track kind of dialed in, you've got your drums dialed in, and you want to be able to take what you've got going here and move it to the second song, right? So you want to save it as a template. Now you'll need to find a place to put it. I have a category, and I just call it whatever, is on another screen, but it gave me the option. So I'm going to name it Kevin Templates or whatever, and I'll do the Joe Snuffy Tent Peg Singers. This is their tracking session. Okay, I usually don't include the media, and I just save. I don't select the location because it's going to go in this folder, and then I hit OK. So then the next time I go and do this, I can open the template, and all those tracks are there, just like I left them on song 1. So that's pretty handy. That'll help you to move from song 1 to song 2 and not have to rebuild the stuff on song 2. So that'll save you a lot of time when you're doing a tracking session in Pro Tools. Okay, so I know that was a crash course, kind of like drinking water from a fire hose. So that's how I'm going to tell my friend who's doing a Pro Tools session next week in Pro Tools. This will help him. So let's see. Fernando says, "Hey Kev, how how is the shortcut to play from a specific location. I don't know if you can kind of clarify that a little bit more, Fernando. I'm not sure that I understand your question exactly. But how is or do you mean what is the shortcut to play from a specific location? um, okay, let me just answer that as if I know exactly what you're talking about. You're wanting to know how to go. Here we go. Let me share my screen again. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Fernando, here's what you do. I covered already that if you have a marker here, and let's call that the verse marker, and then let's just say for a second, this is the chorus 2 marker, and I wanted to go, one thing that I mentioned before is how to go to a marker. And that is, if you look here in this marker memory location, you'll see the number there. This is 2, and this one is probably 3. I'm just going to guess it's 3 because they go in sequential order. So if I want marker 2, I hit dot 2 dot, and the playback head goes to there. I'm going to put it off the screen there, dot 2 dot, and it jumps to that marker. So if you what you could do is if you're reading along on a chart and you wanted to, as you're reading the chart, you put, this is what I'll do a lot of times. If you're looking at the chart, you can just hit the number 2 and circle it. That's what I do. And that way I know that's marker 2. And then if they say, hey, take me to the chorus, and you look at that chorus and you have a 2 and a 5, 2 is the first chorus, 5 is the second chorus, then you can hit dot 2 dot and you're there. So here's a workflow, dot 2 dot 1 1, which backs it up 2 bars, right? I know this is kind of complicated, but I promise you, if you learn this, it'll help. Now, if you want to go to a certain bar, if you got it set up in bars and beats, and you've got it on the grid, as they say, and instead of doing markers, you're doing bar numbers, which I would recommend doing markers also because it's a good visual representation. Don't ever neglect to do markers because nothing makes you look worse than not knowing where you are in a studio or on a live broadcast. Okay, so, but if you want to go back to a bar, if you have it gridded and somebody is saying, hey, take me to bar 3, then there's another shortcut for that, and that is the asterisk. And the asterisk is on this guy here, right here at the top, toward the top above the minus key. There's an asterisk. It's the little star key. If you hit asterisk 3 asterisk, then that will take you to bar 3, no matter what marker it is. So I use this a lot when I'm in Melodyne, because Melodyne will take up your whole screen, but it will tell you the bar numbers. And most of my stuff is on the grid, and they represent each other exactly. So what I usually do is I'll look at Melodyne, and instead of clicking out of Melodyne and going to the playhead and selecting a bar, I'll just use this shortcut, which is asterisk 4 or asterisk 8 or asterisk 1. If you want to go back to the front of the song, that would be another good way to get back to the front where the click track starts too. So yeah, that's yeah. So yeah, and another thing, you said maybe markers, you're in slip mode. I am in slip mode, and I stay in slip mode all the time. I never keep it in grid mode for these sorts of things, just because if you're good at like going to bar 3 to say, and I'm finding these shortcuts are working in my they're working in my live broadcast too, and there's shortcuts happening here if I'm not in the Pro Tools window, which luckily if you're doing a tracking session you will be in Pro Tools all the time. They're affecting each other, and that's how I lost my face a few minutes ago. But if you do asterisk 3 and you go back there and then you want to go 2 bars ahead and mark that spot, then you can hold shift and the number 2. I think I should really verify these things. Yeah, anyway, I'll just, I don't do grid mode. Again, grid mode is for me when you need to do exact things like you're punching in a MIDI keyboard and you're actually playing it yourself, and you don't want to think about playing the last chord and hitting the number 3 to go out of a chord. You want to just kind of plan that. Then I'll usually do Shift K, which goes pre-roll and post-roll. You can do post-roll of a bar also. Um, and and then you can have the system punch you in and out, and then you can roll through it so you can tell if it's a good punch or not, right? So anyway, so that's just a few. Hopefully, Randy, this will help when you're doing your Pro Tools session. I know it's a lot of shortcuts in a short amount of time, but those are the ones that I use most all the time. There's another set of shortcuts that I could probably show you for vocals when you're doing vocals and multiple passes of vocals. Some of these kind of will be helpful when you're doing that too, but I could do one like when you're comping vocals. There's a set of shortcuts for that. But I will in the next few days I will get all of these shortcuts and I'll put them in a downloadable sheet for you so that it'll be helpful. Hey, thank you guys for hanging in there with me. I know it was a lot of shortcuts, and the lack of key commands would have been you if you'd seen it pop up on the screen. It would have been helpful, but I will do that. I'll get something going on that. If there's no more questions, I'm going to shut this down and start shooting a video, and then come back and start mixing some. Okay. Been good hanging out with you, and I'll see you on Friday. Okay. Take care.